I've been catching up on the news recently of what has been going on in the world, because I haven't really been up to date on what's been happening because, you know, health stuff and dealing with more direct issues. But now that I'm starting to get used to my situation, I've been catching up on what's been going on in the world, and I'm just, it's just kind of been a lot. I needed to catch up on what's been going on, but also it's been a lot, it's not always the easiest to catch up. But you gotta do it sometimes, and then you've gotta remember to do some self-care afterwards, right? Because, oh my god. Looking at the news is basically just staring into an infinite abyss these days. Yeah, it is. But also, in some ways I would say that it can help to radicalize you in small doses. It can, it can sometimes push you and motivate you to get involved in things. But yeah, 100%. It's, I'm not saying it's easy. It's just after looking at the news recently, I haven't felt like making a video essay in a while, because it just feels incredibly inaccessible to me right now and really difficult to pull off. But after looking at the news, I felt motivated in a way that I hadn't felt in a while. In a political way, and in a way where I felt, I don't know, it made me feel like, damn, I need to be doing something, and I want to be doing things, and, that's a good feeling to have. But I suppose it's a fine line between, finding out what's going on and letting that radicalize you and push you towards action, and letting it, completely consume any motivation that you have, It's just a really fine line to walk, I suppose. Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, I would like very much for the current state of the world to push me towards creativity and trying to make a difference like I used to try and do. It would be really nice. I'm just trying to figure out how to do that in my current situation, like how to do it without hurting myself. But I think I'm getting there. I'm getting to a point where I feel like I can perhaps take up video editing again with the eye tracker. Like, I'm managing to play RimWorld with the eye tracker, which is quite positive improvement, because chess was kind of easy mode, and now we're up in the difficulty here. We've got to have an anti-Elon emoji in chat at some point. Like, I gotta get that sorted, I gotta get the anti-Elon propaganda going. We already had that anti-Elon art session, and I have been wanting to do another art session soon. Like, I really want to do some more art on stream, but I haven't been able to because I don't have any pain meds. So using my hands for anything other than just pressing on one button right now is just asking for trouble, basically. But once I have pain meds and heal root, once I have a better stock of wild heal root and smoke leaf, I'm hoping to do some more art streams, because I do miss it, and I want to do maybe a Jeff Bezos art piece, do some some, I want to start doing political cartoons or something, I want to start drawing things that send a message, that have something to do with current events, that, I don't know, it's something that I do want to do. Anti-CEO collection. Yeah, like an anti-CEO collection, yeah. The Ben Garrison? Who's Ben Garrison? Is that, should I be, sorry, I apologize to all Ben Garrisons, but I don't know who you are. Hang on. I don't know who Ben Garrison is. I live under a rock. Ben Garrison of the left. Of the left. You know, I'm gonna write that down. I've written it down in my notes. Ben Garrison of the left. Yeah, I would love to become that guy, but of the left, you know, like the Marxist Ben Garrison. Like, let's go, you know. Ben Garrison is a right-wing political cartoonist who's just absolutely bonkers. Okay, that's a good description. Ben Garrison is the CEO of right-wing boomer comics. Ben Garrison is the genius who figured, at least you need to label all your visual metaphors in case your readers are too dumb. Okay. The best part about Garrison is the amount of meme edits of his comics there are. Brilliant. Oh my god. What? Okay, well, thank you for the information. I will definitely look up Ben Garrison in order to take inspiration and try and figure out what works about his comics and like extract that and then apply it to leftist rhetoric and try and like make better comics. And like, how about that? That can be my goal this year as a streamer, is to start doing art streams again and make better art than Ben Garrison. Google Ben Garrison. Oh my god, I don't know if I can say that out. I don't know if I can say that out loud on Twitch. But I will Google it. Okay, okay, so I'm gonna write that in my notes. Google Ben Garrison. Okay. No, I'm not saying it. I won't say it. I won't say it publicly. Don't worry. Yes, Jeff will delete me from Twitch if I say that publicly. Is anyone dying? No. I was worried that perhaps while we were talking about Ben Garrison, I was worried that my colonists would be dying, but they're not. They're fine. I didn't say it. I promise I won't say it. Bellend Garrison. That's pretty nice. Yeah, I just wrote it in my notes. Yeah. I'm serious when I say I write things down. I really do. Like when people I really do, you know, when people suggest things, this is what smartphones are invented for. Yes. Yes. Oh. You should set up like a 2K or 5K name a thing channel point action. You have wait, Rob, how do you have 27,000 channel points? I didn't even know I had channel points. God, I'm such a boomer streamer. I really need to get my act together, you know. I know it's not good. It's unacceptable. To be quite honest with you, it is damn unacceptable. There's a lack of professionalism in this stream. And someone needs to set this straight. It's just too damn queer around here. Okay, any Twitch partner has channel points. Oh. Okay. Okay, so you've got 27,000 channel points, Rob. Bloody hell. Okay, so, okay, well, I'll definitely, being a disaster is the quintessential queer experience. Very, very true. Like, I've... That is very true. Okay, hang on, let me just... There we go, look. I put it on my list, Rob. Set up channel points for Rob. It's on my list. It's on my list. Right under Google Ben Garrison C-word comics. I'm sure you're very proud to be included in the same list. You know? All in a day's work. All in a day's work for the streamers, you know? This is productive labor. And I have been thinking about getting back onto speaking about, you know, topics. I have been reading a lot about the news recently. I watched all of the January 6th hearing for some reason. Well, actually, I know the reason. I know I don't live in the US, but hear me out. Oh my god. My father, who I don't, you know, I'm not currently really in contact with my parents because, like, for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons is that, like, my father is, who has never been to the US, is a Trump, or was, I don't know if he is anymore because I don't engage, a Trump fanatic. But anyway, yeah, so I think that's why I watched all of the January 6th hearings, because, well, I'm also just interested in the US generally because the US is kind of the belly of the beast when it comes to capitalism, right? Does he like Boris? I don't know if he likes Boris, but I know that he voted for Thatcher, and I know that that probably means that he likes Boris as well. British Trump fanatic seems common. It's wild. Really? I didn't know that. Wow, ew. I know, right? I know, right? This is why I live alone and I don't, you know, I fend for myself in this world, you know? Sure, you know? Sure, I don't get any, you know, maybe I would get more material support from my family if I engaged with them, but I've just decided to not and just fend for myself because I just... Nope, I can't do that. Gross, I know, right? I know, right? I know. It's pretty bad. But yeah, so I watched all of the January 6 hearings because, well, I think... Well, yeah, I'm interested in the US because of, you know, the belly of the beast when it comes to imperialism, capitalism, and all that. Well, one of the bellies of the beast. You know, I'm not saying that the UK is necessarily, you know, better or anything, but it's just that I find America to be a fascinating, the US to be a fascinating hub of all of that stuff. So I watched the hearings. That was quite interesting. And then I've been reading a lot about abortion as well, like generally, like not just in the US, but I've been like reading a lot about abortion laws through the 20th century, abortion laws now in different places, and I don't know, just been interested in the topic generally. You know, among other recent topics, but those are some of the things I've been researching the past week anyway. I want to read Caliban and the Witch after I finish this book on the collapse of the USSR. Ooh, what's that? I'll write it in my strange list. This list is going to look like a freaking mess. I've been wanting to read the Communist Manifesto again because I think it's a good book. You know, I've read it a few times already, but every time I read it, I feel like I'm reading it for the first time again because it's just good. And I do want to... What is the other thing I want to read? Oh, yeah, I've got a book that I want to read called Beyond Survival that I haven't finished yet, which is about transformative justice in queer spaces, I think. And then another book that I wanted to read was a book about the history of the Russian Revolution, which I've forgotten the name of. But yeah, and a few other things as well. Oh yeah, Braiding Sweetgrass as well. That book I started and then I dropped off, and I really want to finish it because it is brilliant, and I need to get back into reading that. Your notes are like a poem. They are indeed. I feel like the internet, at least as the English-speaking part, is so US-centric that American politics are basically unavoidable. Yeah, I mean, Lior, I agree, and the world is so affected by, unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case, but, there is a ripple effect, and what happens in the US does tend to affect what happens in other countries as well, right? So I think that's why I'm so fascinated by what's happening over there, because I just feel like, because of, the amount of military and economic power, it's just, I don't know. I don't think I've ever met a French person who was openly pro-Trump, even right-wingers. Yeah, there's a lot of I would say anti-Trump sentiment in France. But honestly, I've never met another British. I don't know. I don't think I've ever met someone who supported Trump in Europe, apart from, yeah, which is just depressing, really. But it's kind of hard to ignore US politics. Just look at French politics. Our right-wing party renamed itself Les Républicains 15 years ago. I wonder why. Exactly, right? I mean, yeah. It would be foolish to not observe the US and what the US is up to, and how the US is influencing the rest of the world. Even when it comes to things like the war in Ukraine and stuff. I'm not going to go too far into it, but like, the US has its hand in every slow cooker on the planet, right? Every crock pot, every saucepan, right? Every pie. Exactly. The US has got a hand in there, right? Or a toe or a finger, it's everywhere. And I think that it's understandable that that people who have never even been there would be fascinated by it, right? You want pie? I want pie too. I would love some pie. What? Where's my dog gone? At this point, you probably know more about politics of the US than your own country. I mean, yeah. I think a lot of people are probably in that situation too. I don't think that's an isolated situation at all. I think, when we are raised in a world that constantly underlines the importance and greatness and, massive reach of the US, it's only logical that that we're then, fascinated by what is happening over there, because, we've always been. I don't know about everyone else, but I mean, I was always, in the educational systems that I was, that I was, raised. I mean, it was always underlined how much power they had and how much influence they have over the rest of the world. So obviously, when stuff starts going south in the US, obviously a lot of people would be like, oh my God, I have to keep a tab on this because I have to, right? It's and you know what? Maybe I would be more invested in the politics and mechanisms of France or Britain if I felt like I had any power whatsoever. If I could get involved in any way. And it's just not a feeling that I've had. However, I have been, this year I have been for one of the first times I've been starting to get, lightly involved in, local orgs. Well, I did get lightly involved in a local org, and I was actually going to, join them and try and help them out with stuff. And then my, the wheelchair thing happened, and so that all went down the drain. But I've decided that I'm going to try and perhaps get politically involved with perhaps an org in Britain, but like over the internet maybe, and just be like, hey, if you need help with graphic design for some posters, I can help you out, stuff like that, just so I can feel like I'm, somewhat implicated, I suppose. I feel like Europe has a weird thing with the US because there's a lot of anti-American sentiment in general, but at the same time, like you said, there's still this ingrained view of power. Yeah, there's an ingrained view of power, and there's also an implicit kind of ripple effect that some people don't even want to admit is a thing. Like, I feel like the reactionary politics in the US and like has been influencing the UK and France as well. Like, I feel like there has been a shift further right in a lot of places, and I think that that's possibly got something to do with the US. You can relate, you feel powerless here in the US. Yeah, I'm sorry that you feel powerless. It's an awful feeling to feel powerless. It really is. It really is. It's something that nobody should feel, like it's such a shame because, humans are so brilliant and so amazing and creative and resourceful, and, it's just such a shame that so many of us feel like we have no power to change anything and no power to really participate in society in a meaningful way because of the way that things are set up. It's just really frustrating, because there are so many of us that have so many skills and have the the desire to be a part of something, but it's alienation, right? We're all like little atoms that have been scattered all over the place, and we're all isolated and we're all by ourselves. And if society was set up in a way that made it so that we could all like contribute and collaborate and to each to their ability, to each to their need, that kind of thing, I just feel like it would just be so much easier to feel like we have the power to influence our communities and our surroundings and stuff like that, To be honest, as someone who lives in the US, you know shockingly little about American politics outside your state. I mean, to be honest, that's understandable though, Spec, because US politics are so state-centered, aren't they? Right, I mean, from what I understand, they're so state-focused that you not knowing about American politics outside your state is completely understandable because of the way the US has been set up, right? I think that's really, really understandable. What kind of left-wing organising is there in France anyway? When I try to look up groups online and whatever, it always looks like there's very little going on that front among the population. There is left-wing organising in France. I would recommend looking towards the universities near you, even if you're not at university. Often at universities there are groups, they might be small, but you've got to start somewhere. Often there will be leftist orgs that will be distributing pamphlets, leaflets at universities, especially the more left-leaning universities. So try and find a university that's more like Université Populaire, and then usually there will be some kind of thing going on there. I feel like we've got to pay attention to the US because the right sure does here in Canada. Yeah, I mean, Pajama Be Vegan, you're right. I mean, do you know your enemy, Your art and design content has potential to influence many. I agree, Rob. I think that is probably my strong suit is the art and design and the artistic stuff. The whole cancel culture thing is a good example. It's huge in France and it definitely didn't originate here. Exactly, right? Leo, you're very, 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 very right. The cancel culture thing is something that originated in the US and has trickled, it's trickled into other places and into discourse everywhere because we live in a world that is massively connected online, and discourse that is in English will very quickly be picked up by
by the French side of the internet, and Spanish, and I don't know, like everywhere really. So I think it's completely understandable that observing the US closely, it just feels like a survival tactic at this point. A wokisme, yeah, I agree, yeah. I've heard that. I've heard French people say wokisme. The French discourse around wokeness is both pathetic and unsurprising. It's like US discourse 5 to 10 years after the fact. Oh, yeah. The French everything, honestly, French everything is like US discourse 5 to 10 years after the fact. Which is why I am so fascinated with the US. Because from my observations, things that happen in the US, a similar version of that thing, be it discourse or even like political parties and stuff, will like suddenly emerge in France like 5 to 10 years later. And that goes for good things and bad things, right? So like trans people and like people starting to talk about gender and pronouns, blah 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 blah. Of course I'm excited about that to arrive in France, but like there's a lot of other things that I'm not excited about. I wish I had the spoons for organizing. Yeah, I wish Leo, I wish the organizing was more accessible. Now, I do hope with with what happened with coronavirus now, I do hope that there are, like, I would bet that there are a lot more orgs that do accessible, have accessible ways of helping, but I agree that there is not enough of that, and there does tend to be a dismissiveness towards people who can only help from a distance, right? And I think that's a shame because, even though organizing on the ground and in real life is incredibly important, and I'm very thankful for the people who are able to do that, I personally am not able, like physically, literally is impossible for me to get anywhere right now. So we can't dismiss the importance of the skills of people that aren't able to be in large groups socially, or are in wheelchairs, or have mobility aids, and therefore they can't get to meetings and participate in that way. We do need to. I think I don't know who I'm even talking about when I say we here, but I think that there needs to be a recognition of working from home is a legitimate way to work, and so organizing from home is also a legitimate way to organize, right? I'm not saying that everyone should organize from home, because that would obviously just kind of, no. I'm not saying that in real life organizing shouldn't be a thing, but I do think that there does need to be a little bit of a stronger focus on that, because imagine how many people you could mobilize potentially, revolutionary people, because a lot of disabled people are quite freaking radical. The US is a predictor of whatever is going to happen. Yes, unfortunately, that is exactly what I have noticed as well. Now, in some ways, obviously, in some ways, and in other ways not, right? I'm not saying that everything in the US is going to happen in France. I'm just saying that there are certain tendencies when it comes to discourse and, a lot of things that do happen in France 10 years later. So it is kind of like a predictor. It's the belly of the beast, right? It's the belly of the beast. France has good work at organising. It does have good work at organising. It does. Much better than, strikes and stuff here are part of the culture here, People aren't resistant to the idea of strikes here, whereas I know in other places, not so much, right? In the UK, in the UK, from what I understand, there's been a lot more revolutionary sentiment and wanting to strike recently, and strikes going on, but I think Thatcher stomped that out for a good few decades with her boots, didn't she? You've been saying that trans people will be the big right-wing talking point 5 years from now. Yeah, I agree. I agree. The we that needs to recognise work from home activism are the leftists who think they're being useful or helpful by saying online activism is meaningless and online activists are worthless. I agree, Farah. I agree. I agree. And it's funny, isn't it? Because the leftists who say that, they kind of act like work from home activists are a problem when in fact we should be, why not, why not open our arms to all forms and all kinds of organising, right? And as I said previously, I don't think that it would be good for everyone to work from home, organise. But I think that we need to accept that a lot of people would be a lot more comfortable doing that. And some people literally cannot organise in real life. And, dismissing online activism as, as something that isn't real activism is just, honestly, it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. And it's also completely counter-revolutionary, in my opinion, because, oh my God, imagine the amount of people you'd be able to mobilise if you just opened your arms to them, That's my opinion. Tories are passing more anti-union legislation. Yeah, I think the Tories in Britain are probably a little bit worried at the moment because it looks like there's been more strike sentiment. So recent UK strikes have been very popular, got the Tories quaking. Yeah, I did see the stuff about the rail strikes, the trains. We need our fingers in all pies. I'm still thinking about pie. God, I wish I had pie. Pie is brilliant, isn't it? I haven't been paying attention to my colonists at all, but it seems like everyone's okay, so that's good. Mick Lynch is great. Okay, I will write that down on my little weird note of the day. Rob. Mick Lynch. Leader of the Transport Union. Ah, good guy. Oh, there's another person that I need to read the books by someone that I heard a lot about, and I keep forgetting to read the books. Is it Parenti? Some leftist guy? I've heard a lot about this guy. Hang on. He's written a lot about stuff. And Parenti? Am I getting that right? I don't know if I'm getting that right. I don't even know what kind of guy this guy is, but I've seen a lot about the yellow guy. I don't know what. Hang on, I'm a little bit warm. Fan on. Got the yeah, I think that's the guy. Look, I don't know if he's a good guy, but I saw something about him on a forum and I was like, oh, I will look into that. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's not a good guy. But he's just a guy that I need to figure out. It's because there's an account that makes videos of his speeches in a yellow filter. Oh, okay. Ah, I see. It's like a Twitter account meme. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I've heard a lot about he's got some good books apparently. And so I thought, like, oh, I don't know why, but I'm feeling like maybe I should read one of their books. If you ignore his Yugoslavia takes, he's good. Okay, I will keep that in mind. Parenti has banger quotes like, these countries, meaning global south countries, are rich. They're not underdeveloped. They're overexploited. Oh, that's brilliant. That's very good. And it's so true, isn't it? It's so freaking true, and it's incredibly frustrating that that so many things that are so freaking true are not seen to be common sense. It just makes sense, but imperialist propaganda does its job, I suppose, huh? It does its job, and you gotta be careful or it'll get ya. Based. Oh yeah, that is it's a very based take indeed. I would agree.